Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Keep my head up when I act, head up, that's a fact. Never looking back, I'ma keep myself on track. Keep my head up, staying strong, always moving on. Feel I don't belong, tell my thoughts to move along. Push myself to be the best, die with no regrets. Live with every breath, see my message start to spread. And I had so many dreams, then you hit your teens. Life ain't really what it seems, try to find out what it means. Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Yeah, I put out all this art, it's my only medicine. Yeah, everything I do, I'm just being genuine. Yeah, I'm sick of being screwed, feel my own adrenaline. Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah. I'm grateful, oh yeah, able, oh yeah, I'm stable, oh yeah, no label, oh yeah, you know me, I have only a path, I'm lonely, but damn, I'm going to win. I don't want no fake love, I want the real stuff. Everybody listen up, cause I'll only say it once. I'm gonna show you all the path, if you want it bad. I'm gonna show you where it's at, yeah, how you can get it back. Yeah, cause I ain't never done, I'll be number one. Working hella hard until I get just what I want, yeah. Rise just like the sun, yeah, fatal like a gun. Shooter's gonna shoot and I'm gonna shoot until I won, yeah. Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Yeah, I put out all this art, it's my only medicine. Yeah, everything I do, I'm just being genuine. Yeah, I'm sick of being screwed, feel my own adrenaline. Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah. I'm grateful, oh yeah, able, oh yeah, I'm stable, oh yeah, no label, oh yeah, you know me, I have only a path, I'm lonely, but damn, I'm going to win, yeah. Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Keep my head up when I act, head up, that's a fact. Never looking back, I'ma keep myself on track. Keep my head up, staying strong, always moving on. Feel I don't belong, tell my thoughts to move along. Push myself to be the best, die with no regrets. Live with every breath, see my message start to spread. And I had so many dreams, then you hit your teens. Life ain't really what it seems, try to find out what it means. Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Yeah, I put out all this art, it's my only medicine. Yeah, everything I do, I'm just being genuine. Yeah, I'm sick of being screwed, feel my own adrenaline. Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah. I'm grateful, oh yeah, able, oh yeah, I'm stable, oh yeah, no label, oh yeah, you know me, I have only a path, I'm lonely, but damn, I'm going to win. I don't want no fake love, I want the real stuff. Everybody listen up, cause I'll only say it once. I'm gonna show you all the path, if you want it bad. I'm gonna show you where it's at, yeah, how you can get it back. Yeah, cause I ain't never done, I'll be number one.
Topic of discussion, boys. Good morning. Is, well, I mean, look, ever since I put out that prop video on testosterone propionate, I've just got an influx of interest in what is this phenomenon of men that are on long esters having a terrible time on TRT. You know, I think the medical establishment and the sort of powers that be regarding testosterone replacement like to decide things, and their logic in this case is based on the fact that you don't have to inject as much with a long ester. That's essentially it, right? And that it's able to modify blood levels in a positive way with cypionate or enanthate. However, it is just often the case that these longer esters aromatize loads, first of all, so it's extremely hard to dial in. Guys got to be on 110, 120 in order to not aromatize loads. And that, again, as we talked about, the ester is around so long, you're just getting constant conversion to estradiol. And in other countries, like South America, as an example, they know not to use testosterone cypionate. Isn't that something? You're going to find this on the web. I forget where I read this and some sort of a detailed breakdown, but there are people in other countries that are, you know, where cypionate is well known to just over aromatize in people, and they don't use it. They don't want to use it. They'd rather use clomid than cypionate, but importantly, shorter esters. Regarding suppression of the HPTA, again, shorter esters, there's less suppression. It's unclear if that's going to equate to, in these situations, higher levels of luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone, probably higher than baseline, because that's what the studies say, which is good. The less shut down the hypothalamus pituitary is regarding gonadotropins, the better your sexual function is going to be, generally speaking. As I've said before, TRT is really not hormone replacement. It only is if you've got HCG there. But if you also have a somewhat functional hypothalamus pituitary as it relates to gonadotropins, it is better. It is much better. God, this topic is huge, and I'm very passionate about it. Because again, I have displayed and read some important papers regarding HCG, where microdosing 100 IU a day or something is really not raising the levels of serum HCG compared to a 500 IU dose every other day or something, which is much better for getting the benefits of improving nerve function. And remember, you're shut down if you're not doing anything with the testicles. If you're just on TRT, you're shut down. This is why guys have sensation issues, etc. So there's a lot to talk about on that front. I'm getting a lot of emails, a lot of consultations. Should I switch to prop? Okay. If you can stand the post-injection pain and run an everyday or every other day protocol, some people are going to find better libido and erections on every other day because the fluctuations are even greater, and not in a bad way. Like, you know, you just, they're not saturative of estradiol at the estrogen receptors. And so you end up just, it's funny. Like, I've seen people on prop with 50 picograms per milliliter estradiol, but they don't have ED, and they don't have gynecomastia-ish symptoms, and they don't feel anxious, and they don't feel less confident. All the things that, you know, high estradiol will do to you. It's like they're not even really feeling negatives. And that's because the tissues get a break, boys. I'm telling you, I keep saying it. I think I'm right. Abdi, hey Ryan, first question. What do you think of possibly taking DHT gel alongside test gels? A 20-year-old, that was a little test. I would only bring the DHT gel in if, you know, test alone, like the test gel, which is probably short-lived, won't aromatize as much, or it may acutely, but then that's going to go back down and you'll get less saturation of estradiol at the tissues, which is where this matters. I mean, the serum matters too, but again, we can't even read what's happening. There's papers on this where the authors of the research paper are going, we don't have an acceptable way to measure, you know, estradiol at the tissue level. We don't. So anyway, you know, if test gel, which should be better, generally the gels are better for less constant aromatization because you're peaking and you're troughing that day, you know, which again, just may be better for people that can't get cypionate and enanthate to work. But if for some reason, you know, that doesn't work, like, you know, your bloods are in order and you can't figure out why libido and erections are not good, then yeah, maybe bring in the DHT gel as well, which will antagonize some of the estradiol response at the receptor sites. It will. So that will be useful for some people. Keep in mind, all the DHT sides will come along with that, namely hair loss, because, I mean, are not Yeah, namely hair loss, because acne is kind of everything. It's every one of these hormones, especially fluctuations. Would DHT gel mess my chances of having a kid? DHT gel alone, it would be less suppressive. So you'd probably have less suppression of the fertility system. But I think you would probably want to run HCG just in case. Nicholas Haig, valerian. Yeah, that's an old school compound. 250 milligrams. Do you think is a good enough dosage? I do. When I ran valerian, it was when I was having some sleep problems years ago, and I was running 500, and it worked for sleep for sure, but it also made me very groggy in the morning. So your mileage is going to vary. Finding yourself in between those doses might be useful. Fantastic list. Research points neurotransmitter dysfunctions in IBS, downregulation of alpha-2 adrenergic receptors, a lower level of GABA, enhanced expression of high-affinity choline transporter. The high-affinity choline transporter, that would essentially be lowering acetylcholine if you had high expression of that. IBS protocol, non-MVC, P5P, uridine. Can't really tell you. I'd have to look into it further. Yep. Because it's unclear whether or not the IBS is causing those things or those things are causing the IBS, right? You'd want to determine which one. Can't really give you advice on being dyslexic. I am mildly dyslexic as well. It's just mild. Like when I write things, I'm letters ahead of where I currently am. I'll start writing, but then I'll start writing the letters at the end of the word in the middle of the word. I have no idea. I haven't been able to figure out. I just write slower. Senex, since it's the topic, what are your thoughts on DHT being a trash hormone? Trash? Some argue that test does everything DHT does without the negative effects. No, they are wrong. It definitely doesn't. DHT binding in penile tissues is aiding in erectile quality. In fact, there's a paper on this, if you give rats pure DHT or DHT analog, that's where they get massive erectile benefits. Whereas with test alone, they're not doing that. Test will convert to DHT to an extent, but who knows how disabled or impaired your 5-alpha reductase enzymatic system is. That's going to determine that. People that have PFS where that system is impaired and all the test or a good degree of test is siphoning through the only available metabolic pathway, which is estradiol, they have problems that would benefit greatly from not necessarily DHT, but upregulating the 5-alpha reductase enzymes. Best way to sustainably work 10 to 12 hours a day would be 100 to 200 milligrams modafinil. That would be honestly the best way. But, also, there's a lot of things. Like if your test is low or even mid-range and you get it up to 900 or 1,000 or whatever on the right ester for you, you're going to have the ability to work. There are days where just because I'm cycling off, or I don't necessarily need to use a nootropic that day, where just TRT, like I'm on prop now, test prop, 140 milligrams a week. I'm largely everyday injections, but I'm experimenting with doing that every other day to see if there is more even of a trough that's tolerable, but that also helps the gonadotropin system, right? The suppression, less suppression. And, but yeah, prop, like even on Cypionate, when I got it dialed in, which was a lot harder to dial in, my energy was pretty max all day, right? That, in addition to, B vitamins, vitamin D, some krill oil in the morning. Critical distinction, not fish oil. Not that I hate. I think krill's just a lot better. Some selenium. Again, at this point, I'm every other day dosing a desiccated thyroid supplement, which is I hate the phrase game changer, but absolute game changer for energy. So I just, modafinil if I really need to hit it. Other nootropics because they're fun, but to be honest, I really don't need them if all that stuff is straight. Would you see therapeutic use of MDMA mentioned by Huberman? Yeah, probably. Again, for depression, PTSD, things of this nature. These types of states that you end up in via the serotonergic modulation would be useful. I think they would be useful. Like I was in Iraq in 06, 08, and yeah, look, my platoon lost a section sergeant. His name is Marlon Harper, black guy. You can Google him in the story. And I was there that day when that happened, and it was fucked up. And, and then I think 7 more people, including myself, were injured. And so you could say I have PTSD, but I also think that how headstrong you are, how stable you are going in determines how affected you'll be by traumatic things going out. So if you weren't stable going in, you're going to be a lot worse off. So anyway, I'm fine, like fine, but micro dosing psilocybin in the past has helped, like, you know, has helped. I'm fine. I don't have any weird things. Like, I'm just like, I'm aware of fucking everything, and I'll never be able to detach from that. But, you know, I think these things are useful for those situations, and maybe depression as well. Gino did some Deca when he was younger, 5 years ago, combined with Trembolone. I never finished the cycle and never used Clomid. Should I get Clomid at this point? Depends on how you feel. I mean, sure, if the system wasn't revitalized correctly after a cycle like that, and you're having erectile issues or some issue, then yeah, probably you would, you know, try Clomid, see if it works. If not, just move on. You have many other options. You know, Maximus these days, not that I think they're a great company, because they used to just offer Clomid, which is kind of terrible, you know, for a good degree of people. Some people respond fine to it. Depends on the dose, really, I think. But they offer an oral TRT solution, which is essentially like just oral testosterone that has a very short half-life. It's less suppressive. And then they usually want to stack it with Clomid. So, you know, you've got options otherwise than Clomid if that doesn't work, including that TRT, short-acting TRT, Esther. So, Trey, do you take less nootropics now that you're on test prop? I wouldn't say so. I definitely feel the need to take less. Like, I don't, you know, there's more days while I'm on. I mean, there's been more days that I've been on TRT that I haven't needed to use nootropics for performance. Still use them because I love them, you know, and there's extra performance you can get from them. Especially, it's just fascinating to me for the memory part of my brain to be improved, you know. Verbal fluency a tad, that's always usually good. But, you know, the whole time on TRT, it's been pretty easy not to have to rely on nootropics every day for performance. Relying on them, you know. I used to very much rely on them. Test prop is different. Again, you're getting a, you know, close to super physiologic, or depending on your dose, actual super physiologic peak of testosterone in a day, in 8 hours. Within an 8 hour period. It could be 4 hours. Generally, the consensus is 2 to 4. It starts peaking. You might peak at 4, 5, hour 6, at the latest hour 8, but then it starts to drop down. But yeah, like if you've talked to anyone on the subreddit, the testosterone or TRT subreddits, or anyone on any of the testosterone forums, including me, about their experience with prop regarding energy, it's a night and day difference. Night and day, because it's just. You inject, it's going right in, levels start to rise right away. Yeah, a bigger breakdown on testosterone propionate coming. And I got to give it time, because you never know. There might be some downstream thing that I end up getting off of prop because it's doing one thing or the other, right? The demand for RBCs is more significant because it's peaking testosterone higher. And so if you're not watching out for that, that could be a problem. You know, it could lower your ferritin and iron, maybe iron, but likely ferritin very quickly. It could be more suppressive on thyroid function because TRT tends to do that. So who knows? But I might be an advocate, I guess, an ambassador for testosterone propionate, and try my damnedest in the interest of helping what is an estimated tens of thousands of guys that are on cypionate and don't have a good time to switch to prop. Morammer. What do you think about clomiphene? The E2 antagonist in the brain is killing my libido and erections, but the test boost is very present. Absolutely. That's the problem with that drug. I mean, again, it's got to be dosed correctly. You know, I mean, in some situations, a regular 25 milligram a day dose of Clomid is fine, and people do fine with it. It's not everybody that has sides, right? But you know, like in these cases where there are side effects, that you'd want to be splitting it 12.5 a day, maybe even less. You know, that's just kind of what I think, because it's just E2 receptor antagonism while still having a lot of serum E2, which may bind everywhere else or at other receptor sites. I believe you're really only blocking it in a couple areas, mainly pituitary gland. You know, somewhere in your eyes, I believe there's some estrogen receptor binding, which is what causes ocular issues on some of Clomid analogs. So, yeah, if it's killing your libido and erections, that's just a problem. It's a problem. Something's wrong. Chris Sanchez, I hear a lot of conflicting information about TRT. How do you decide when and how much to use? when would be, you're not able to, through supplementation and through lifestyle modifications, to raise testosterone, and you're suffering in terms of energy and libido and erections and recovery at the gym. That would be the when, for sure. Even if you're at 500, 600, you might need to be post-therapeutic, like supra-therapeutic at 900 to 1200 or something total test. So that's the when. And regarding how much to use, it depends on the ester. Like, quite honestly, like I said, with testosterone cypionate, in order for me to get maximized sexual function, which is really important for TRT, on cypionate, I got to dose every 4th day. I have to have peaks and troughs. Everyday dosing of cypionate, I really have to modify the estradiol a little much. Whereas I really don't need to dose an AI if I'm on every 4th day. Now, that sounds counter to what the internet bros are going to tell you, but frankly, the internet bros don't know what the fuck they're talking about and are spreading misinformation. Troughing allows less saturation, specifically of estradiol at the receptors, which means less constant activation of the tissues in an estrogen-like way, which ultimately means better sexual function. However, on longer esters, especially with infrequent injections, you're much more prone to acne. You're just much more prone to acne because the androgens stay around longer. They're still staying around because of the ester, right? So it's a difficult one. Whereas again, with testosterone propionate, you're just getting less saturation. You're getting less saturation consistently. You have a high saturation point of both TNA, but it's not as significant because it does go down and it fluctuates. S&C Nutrition. So I don't know of this compound here. Why is that not showing on the screen? Okay, thanks for the super chat, brother. I forget what it does. So let me just quick figure that out. And preventing cardiovascular disease. It's a flavin 3 OL type of secondary metabolite providing antioxidant roles, belongs to so polyphenols, flavonoids, got it. Probably be useful for helping brain performance because it's reducing oxidative stress. That's really all I can tell at this point in looking at it. May optimize blood flow and metabolic rate while regulating blood sugar levels, promoting muscle protein synthesis. That's just a blog, not a study. So don't know. I'd have to read a little more about it. Where did my chat go? There we go. Okay. Chris Sanchez, do you take an AI with TRT? Rarely, but yes, sometimes. Yeah. Like just as an example, I changed to prop nearly 6 weeks ago. I had been playing around with dosing and protocols to see what daily feels best because prop is short acting and you can actually do that with it, whereas you cannot really do that with cypionate. And as an example, if I'm injecting intramuscularly or shallow intramuscularly, which is essentially reaching the muscle, might as well call it intramuscular, with prop, and it's in the 25 milligrams or above range, I will get estrogenic side effects for brief periods. In which case, something like a slow-acting aromatase inhibitor like aromasin is better, and I have used very small doses of it to get the estradiol back in check, which just alleviated temporary symptoms of sexual dysfunction. Now, the problem with AIs, as I've always said, though, and as everybody knows, is that look, there are better ways to lower estradiol, not the least of which is calcium D-glucarate, and when that happens, you will get less arthralgia, joint pain, and bone issues, bone mineral density problems. You're still going to get them if you take the estradiol too low with calcium D-glucarate. But with AIs, they're just aromasin is better now. I'm convinced for sure because it's slower, and so you don't drop it very quickly. You drop it over the course of days, estradiol, and so you're less likely to have joint pain, etc. Just other symptoms from using AI. So yeah, if either the labs identify or I can physically identify that estradiol is a little out of that comfort range. Like one thing that happens to me when estradiol gets too high is my confidence around women drops a little bit, and I notice it. Like I'm just a little bit less confident, which is fucked up. I hate that. So, the estradiol's got to go down. Generally speaking, as everyone's going to say, if you can avoid them, avoid them. Sometimes you can't, though, because you'll need the therapeutic benefit of a high dose of test to get benefits. And so the estradiol is going to come up in an unreasonable range, and you've got to try to manage it. So, AIs will work perfectly for some people, absolutely perfectly, whether Arimidex or Aromasin, and others are going to have problems with them. It all really depends. Nicholas is saying, how many carbs per day for both long cognitive work and decent fitness? I can't find a recommendation for cognitive purposes. I mean, what do I eat in a day? In the morning, English muffin with eggs and some bacon, like some carrots, usually a salad, maybe some chicken in the salad. In the afternoon, carrots are good to go. Carbs for dinner, definitely I'm eating carbs. It's either a load of rice or a load of potatoes. It's always vegetables, right? So I get a good degree. How many in a day? Maybe 150. It's difficult to say. But I think that carbs matter. The gram quantity of carbs that you get in a day matter relating to cognitive performance only when you go too low. When you go too low and you start having cognitive issues, that's when it matters and you need to up them from where you are at. And again, lower the carb you go consistently, the more you're going to dysregulate serum electrolytes, which is going to affect your energy too, right? So just having the carbs in place kind of help to not derange electrolytes. I've not experimented with I have experimented with black maca, and I do not believe there's any DHT effects. I believe there is dopaminergic effects though. Okay, not a whole lot of opinion on statins, except for the combined use of statins and niacin was very useful in a few studies. Niacin in and of itself may be somewhat of a replacement or be better for people to take, although some people need statins. Thoughts on smoking CBD and how to resolve sweaty palms? Don't know the answer to that question, but CBD is pretty useful. I've used it for reduction of anxiety when nothing else helped, or when I just kind of wanted to try that, and it did work. I got these long straws that had liquid CBD and some sort of sugar additive to it, which you would just open and drink a little bit of it, and it was actually really good. Wellbutrin. My thoughts on it are that it's going to feel good for some people for either the duration or for some time that you're on it, because you just are going to have a lot of extracellular dopamine around. Long term, not good for you. I believe I did answer your super chat regarding that compound, epicatechin. Here's another one. OG Aesthetics. What are your thoughts on Russo's PFS cure? Right, it was sodium valproate, high dose DHB. Well, I don't know. To be honest, I don't know, because I've never seen PFS be need genetic modification, which is what sodium valproate would do. So I'm not entirely sure we're getting the full picture, but I could be wrong. That's kind of just all I really have to say about that. I got a question about testosterone cypionate. I use testosterone cypionate every day and no AI at 210 milligrams a week, nothing else added. Ended up with 50 E2, and that was causing gyno-like symptoms, trying 2 times a week, 200 total, with 25 anastrozole every day after injection. Thoughts? I think that dose of anastrozole will probably be too high. If I were you, I'd do 0.125 after the day after injection, twice a week. That's what I would do. You may end up finding, though, depends on how sensitive you are to the drug. You've got to test estradiol after you do this. That 0.125 alone once a week will keep you in the sweet spot. It's going to fluctuate. It'll go down in the first 3 days, and it's going to come back up in the secondary 4 days. But those 4 days, it may not go back up to the point where it starts causing you problems. Just to give you an idea, when I was on 140 of CYP, injected every day subcutaneously with 250 IU every day of HCG, this was just one protocol that I ran, which was not ultimately optimal. If I took 0.125 milligrams in anastrozole, it would reduce the estrogen by 10 points per week, right? 10 points per week. So I had to actually dial back and stop taking anastrozole at that point, because when it got to 30, which is a great spot for me, the next week, 7 days later, would have been at 20. So just to give you an idea of how people can respond to that. I am 40. I am 40 years old. I'm a 40-year-old gamer. Do I think Wellbutrin is a good short term for PFS anhedonia? It may alleviate some of the problems. You know, if the anhedonia is dopamine related, which it in part is, 9-MeBC would be better. Thoughts on AOD 9604, another compound I do not know about. Let's see what it does. Peptide fragment of human growth hormone. Okay, growth hormone peptide. Study suggests ability to stimulate fat burning. Interesting, mimicking the way that natural growth hormone regulates fat metabolism. I'm sure there's no biological free lunch. I'm sure there are side effects or a problem with that. I'd say dose moderately and conservatively on it, but looks interesting. Is there a mainstream brand name for that? I'm not sure that there is. Yeah, it's a lipolytic fragment of human growth hormone. Interesting. I can say peptides are a very promising class of compounds. Definitely. I mean, they're doing a lot of things. Like they're modifying systems indirectly that we wouldn't have to like take growth hormone for. We could just take a peptide that modifies it in some positive way. So I haven't heard a lot of safety versus not safety information or data on it. So I can't tell you how long-term sustainable it is to be taking. From my first look at it, looks pretty interesting. Looks pretty good. OG crashed estradiol 300 milligrams test using 0.25 of Arimidex. Harbofil for 2 weeks. Don't use an AI unless blood work show very high too. Well, I mean, yeah, use the right dose of AI. Yeah. I mean, if you don't have any symptoms, then don't take an AI. You know, if you don't have any erectile issues or libido issues and you feel fucking great, no blood pressure issues, you know, and you feel amazing, don't take an AI because it's likely that the tissues aren't being saturated very significantly with estradiol to where it's causing a problem, even though the serum says it's 50 picograms per milliliter. That's rare though. Most people past 50 have problems. Or will eventually have problems. But, you know, this here is a good point because this doesn't say don't use an AI. This is where people end up then going on the other extreme because they get terrible side effects from what is ultimately low estradiol, not aromatase inhibitors. And aromatase inhibitors are largely innocuous drugs, but you use them the wrong way and you're going to feel bad. And then people go, oh, I'll just let the E2 go, which is not the answer either. It's about dialing them in. To your defense, however, the strength of both Arimidex and Aromasin, frankly, are too much. They're too much. You know, there needs to be an intermediary drug. You know, like, can we just drop the estradiol 10 points and let it balance there and stay there without inhibiting aromatase, and have a protocol or a medication that allows it to stay there for 14 days? 14 days, right? So, you know, and you get an estradiol test before it's 35, you're having some sexual dysfunction, you'd like to knock it down to 27. You know, you have the corresponding dose that will do that or get close to that. You take it, it knocks it down to 27. You don't get joint pain because it's not too quick and it isn't via inhibiting aromatase, right? You know, I don't know how one would achieve that or how, you know, future science would achieve that. I mean, I almost think nanobots, honestly, would go in there and find, you know, serum estradiol and get it out of the system. But problem two lies in the tissue. So said nanobots probably might not even mess with the serum. You know, they'd go down to the tissues where it's causing a problem, where these nanobots can identify that there's overexpression of estrogen receptors in penile tissue, as an example, and go alleviate that issue. That's what we really need, you know. If I had $1 billion in 15 years, I'd invent it, because that's what you'd need to invent a drug. All right. Greetings. OG ordered some 9-MeBC. Will it fix the caffeine coke? Potentially, they can't feel the caffeine coke from PFS. I can't feel any substance. Potentially, yeah. 9-MeBC is known to increase the sensitivity of other stimulants and even reverse stimulant tolerance. So possibly you'll get, you know, some sort of positive effect from that. Thoughts on creatine relating to cognition? I think it helps to some degree. I forget the mechanism. I wouldn't call it substantial, and I wouldn't personally aim to take it as a nootropic. Like, I don't. But yeah, I mean, it is useful. There's enough anecdotals to say that it's pretty useful. Senek, where are you pinning prop every day? I am right now pinning sub Q because I'm running every other day. So I do not want the concentrations of prop to be, I don't want the trop to be so low that I feel terrible and start urinating out all of my water via low estradiol, too low estradiol. So I'm trying to, keep the dose. This is a case in which sub Q actually makes sense. I don't really believe it makes a whole lot of sense with cypionate, although some people's experiences will disagree with that, and I understand that. So some people will be fine. But yeah, sub Q. I was doing for 4 weeks. I was doing intramuscular 20 milligrams a day. However, the stability, it offered more stability than you would think with prop. The stability is what I'm trying to get away from. I want more peaks and troughs, and I actually want to go and then measure serum LH and FSH and see how much suppressive activity is happening with prop. So I'm giving a longer gap between injections just every other day of 40 milligrams sub Q. That's where I'm using. And it's in just both thighs. If they get too sore, because prop can do that, it's definitely tender on the injection sides. Then I'll switch to my stomach tissue and whatever. That's essentially it. But yeah, I think prop is one of the only esters where sub Q, makes sense. And again, sub Q and intramuscular, it's like you can manipulate your protocol via doing those. That's one of the useful things about them if you absorb sub Q, because some people have a real difficult time doing that, and I'm not sure why. It's like metabolism of the task, like getting into the liver and ester being cleaved and entering the bloodstream and entering circulation, being transported to tissues. It's just different for different people. But like I'm saying, like in order to keep my 40 milligram every other day test prop dose around where on day 2, I don't feel like complete shit, like I feel like pretty good, I'm running sub Q so that there's a slow release. And by the way, I injected yesterday 40 milligrams prop, 500 IU HCG, and I feel great today. I'm not in so the idea that you have to inject prop every other day is nonsense. Or I mean, every day, you don't have to do it every day. Like I feel great on every other day. You're welcome, Donald Pump, with a Let's Go Trump 2024. I'm pretty sure pretty sure we all knew, bro, that you're supporting the big man in 2024. I mean, quite honestly, I really don't think there's a better option. I mean, if you're interested in people's personalities and that determines who you vote for, I think you really ought to look at what your criteria is for a valid president, because people get fooled that way. I think Obama is an incredible talker. He's verbally fluent largely, but he's a great speech artist, right? And so that convinced a lot of people. I'm not sure he was the greatest president though, right? I like him. He's a good, smart dude. But again, people can be fooled by that. Like HRC was pretty verbally fluent and seemingly professional. Probably would have been a disaster. Biden wasn't, is utterly the opposite of verbally fluent. But that doesn't matter. It's about what they do. And I don't know, look at how much you're paying for food. Those are the things that matter, by the way. Okay. Not your ideology. Okay. Like get real. Become an adult. Fantastic list. I took 800 milligrams theanine and 400 milligrams picamillin sublingually. I felt a high rush of dopamine that made my IBS gas radius relieved like nothing else. Relieved. From that perspective, what other protocols should I use? I mean, it's just indicating that you need some degree. It's hard to say because theanine and picamillin and therefore GABA and serotonin are, can be calming the digestive system. Irritable bowel indicates higher motility, right? Things move faster. So if these slowed things down, all it really did was change your motility. Change the speed with which you turn food into chime. So it's definitely a difficult one to say. Malin, just creating awareness. I've been diagnosed with severe obstructive sleep apnea while not being overweight or unfit. Caused polycythemia, brain fog, low T. Interesting. Weird. My take on sleep apnea is that perhaps not in all cases, because certainly overweight people can get it, and it's because they're overweight. But my take on sleep apnea is that is more of a gut problem. And I know that sounds crazy, but, if you're not adequately secreting gastric juices to digest your food, or you have some overgrowth of bacteria in the stomach, like H. pylori, or in the small intestine, like SIBO, well, then your food that you eat is not going to be digested properly, and it's going to reflux upward. Some reflux is not heartburn. There's a thing called airway reflux or respiratory reflux. And respiratory or airway reflux is sinister and silent. It means it doesn't burn, but you will have like a globus sensation, some sort of thick sensation, like something's in your throat. And that will inhibit your breathing. It's going to swell your pharynx larynx area. It's going to be swollen. And like you can do a scope like at an ENT, an ear, nose, and throat doctor, and literally see inflammation in that area. It's going to close your throat when you're sleeping and cause you to have sleep apnea. The issue isn't that you forgot how to breathe. It's that, your vocal cords and your pharynx and your larynx interacting with your airway are inflamed via fucking reflux. Okay. Sleep apnea is not something that just happens. Like what causes it? I would contend for a lot of people, it is more a problem with digestion and less a problem with whatever they're contending it is. What's the mechanism? Like nobody's even saying that. Oh, you just have a sleep apnea because you're overweight or whatever. Like there's a cause. Yeah, here's a suggestion. Taping your mouth shut when you sleep. That might help. That's an interesting one. That might force the pharynx larynx area to open more. You guys really ought to look into seeing if you have silent reflux. I mean, do you have postnasal drip? Are you constantly clearing your throat? Do you have a globus sensation where you actually feel like something's in your throat at certain times, like when you're going to bed especially? Or do you have full-blown reflux? I guarantee people with sleep apnea, 7 out of 10 people that look at that are not going to not find that they have those symptoms. They're going to find that they have symptoms that are gut related. Chris Sanchez, you probably don't remember, but I asked you about FL modafinil versus modafinil in the past. I may remember, I'm sure I said modafinil because that's just tried and true and we know how it affects you. It's the most studied. I know the doses that affect me well, so I just dose them. What would be the best way to get it to a doctor to prescribe modafinil? And would they prescribe it? I mean, if you had narcolepsy, they would prescribe it in a second. Otherwise, though, if you are generally complaining of excessive fatigue despite normal blood levels of B12 and like everything, and doc doesn't want to really, your thyroid levels are low, but they're not deficient, and doc doesn't want to put you on that, or your testosterone's low-ish, but not deficient, doesn't want to put you on TRT, then they might prescribe modafinil in that case. Yeah, that would be my suggestion. Complain of severe fatigue. Doc's going to probably want to have you get labs. And if hopefully those labs aren't, there's nothing crazy deficient for your case here to get modafinil, doc would probably be okay prescribing it. It all depends on the doctor. Some doctors are very conservative, very conservative. I have an endocrinologist that I go to bounce things off and to get prescribed certain things if I may need it, and just to have conversations, and for him to get a second opinion from an endocrinological standpoint on my blood work. And he's been sued before, so he's very conservative. He's a little lenient with me because he knows I know what I'm doing, but generally speaking, he's conservative. Some docs are just very conservative. Most powerful happy stack that replaces booze. Maybe the Mr. Happy Stack. Google that. But there's really nothing that will do that. And you don't want that. You don't even want to have that effect. It's a superficial effect of GABA binding and dopamine release that is not good for you. Not to mention it inhibits whole regions of your brain, or parts within those regions that make you descend down to some of these Freudian identified psychological states where you're very nasty with people and you don't inhibit you don't bite your tongue, and you should never be in that state unless someone's trying to kill you, or someone's really messing with you psychologically. Then bring out those deep rooted crazy states. But booze makes you bring them out in regular life, and that is unhealthy. So kill the booze. Kill it completely. I haven't drank in 2 years. I don't intend to. I don't care. I I just have a long history with family members and ex-girlfriends being alcoholics and it destroying everything. So I'm just turned off by it. I hate, booze-induced arrogance because it's everywhere. When people start to get that little arrogant thing, I'm like, oh, you are disgusting. So, once you get to that point, you probably just don't consume the shit. Best nootropics for OCD. Couldn't really answer that. Anything dopaminergic would help. Can I add a random nootropics to a nootropic stack? You can. I mean, you got to be judicious about what you're putting in there. The best way to understand what stacks do what would be to get Nootropics Mastery, which you can find at livecortex.com. It's about a 40-minute or so video course of me breaking down stacks that target everything. So if you want, the individual ingredients as well as stacks that target verbal fluency, get that course. If you want stacks for motivation, get that course. If you want stacks for energy, get that course. They're all broken down. Memory, get that course. They're all broken down in that fashion. Favorite racetam stack for all around productivity? Probably aniracetam. Yeah, because it just stimulates the hell out of me, not in an excessive way. Also improves my memory to where I'm just very interested in everything I'm doing. And I'm working better, which also further, facilitates the interest in what I'm doing. Love the racetam God Guide. Yes, that's pretty effective. That thing is for people, and I wrote that 6 years ago or something, or 7 maybe. For people interested in racetams, that's the only piece of information you will ever need regarding racetams. I wrote it, more than a half decade ago, and it is still 1,000% relevant today because none of the racetams have changed. None of the dose suggestions, in my opinion, have changed. It's honestly the best. And there's no other piece of information out there regarding racetams that is that detailed. But I break down stacks, everything. You can find it at livecortex.com. Most effective alternative for SSRI, not for depression, but because GABA and serotonin helps my IBS dramatically. Again, picamil and theanine is really what you'd be looking at. Other compounds that act mildly like an SSRI would be St. John's wort. SJW does have a degree of serotonin reuptake inhibition that takes place, which is probably a lot healthier than sertraline or citalopram, which are SSRIs. Definitely a lot more healthy than those. Buddies, trying to see if I think all the specials right now, I know the Cortex special is still going, so I think this video applies.
This stuff here is Focus and Flow in a bottle, and it's very good for your brain cells.
Yep, 25 Cortex, 25% off of the Cortex stack. I mean, this alone will solve a lot of people's problems, like with brain function. Put a 7 milligram nicotine patch on and forget it. You're in for life. You won't want to take anything else. Same with Torque, but they're both very, very good stacks. But the Cortex stack, look, I mean, just imagine for pretty cheap, you had 60 capsules of a hard-hitting, predictable nootropic in your arsenal. You'd have a different life. I'd hate to sound like Tony Robbins, but the stuff is very powerful. 25% off code is 25. Cortex, my boys. H is lost with nootropics and racetams. There are just too much nootropics and I don't know what to take. Yeah. I mean, you're in the preliminary stages of trying to sift through all this information. And I think what you need to do is, you should get Nootropics Mastery, livecortex.com. It's a video course that very simply breaks down nootropics in general, but gives you stacks that are targeted for certain states. I think it would be also useful to get Nootropics Ground Zero, which is if you're brand new, here's what you need to know, right? It just gives you a framework for how to even think about nootropics as well as stacks. So you probably want to start with Ground Zero, Nootropics Ground Zero, which is at livecortex.com. It's a pretty long video course, about an hour. And just watch it and think about it and just think and get your information from one or two sources. Don't be perusing Reddit, because all that is n equals ones without the consciousness from those people that it's merely an n equals one and this will not apply to other people definitely, right? So, there's a lot of shallow thinking regarding that. Mo's examples is saying, hey, Ryan, I was thinking if you ever thought about a nootropic cycle, similar to what bodybuilders do all the time. I mean, I've talked about it over and over again for many years. So, you ought to sift through some of our content because essentially, I have broken down cycles to a large degree. I mean, every time we talk about research chemicals like 90-BC, it's in the context of a cycle. 25 to 50 milligrams for 4 weeks straight with a 2-week break, running another cycle depending on whether or not that alleviated your theoretical dopaminergic problems. These days, though, I think you run nootropics less on cycles because a lot of them come with tolerance, right? A lot of them, racetams especially, will come with tolerance. You can use them every day. Fine. Not kidney toxic, not liver toxic. It'll be fine. But tolerance may happen. So running them in a comparable way to steroid cycles doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Again, unless it's not ABBC or some other select compounds, right? Because of tolerance, essentially, and the potential for side effects, can happen if you're just running the same thing consistently, especially if it's at high doses or if it has a long half-life. Like CDP choline, you can take that every day, but you got to take it at 40, 50 milligrams. You wouldn't be taking it at 100 or 200. It's got a 72-hour half-life with a 98% absorption rate. So, things are just different depending on the situation. Best way to prevent Alzheimer's? It's so hard because you probably, it may be the case that you can do everything that one would suggest and still get Alzheimer's. I think preventing oxidative stress is one major way to try to prevent it, which, you would achieve by not drinking alcohol, essentially, or taking any medication that causes hardcore oxidative stress and damage. I think mitigating an inflammatory response by eating largely a real foods diet, which is just the antithesis of a processed foods diet. If you just eat real food, that'll change your life. I mean, it's harder. You have to cook, whatever, but it's better. And then getting more detailed regarding that, rather than getting this $6 cut of a big piece of beef that you think is economical because it's big, spend the $12 on the 2 smaller grass-fed, grass-finished pieces of beef. I have a markedly different response in terms of energy, side effects, because I'll actually feel less than optimal if I eat shitty beef versus grass-fed, grass-finished beef at the store. Big difference, boys. Seneca saying the live session has been one of those positive construction things I've been doing the last few weeks. I love that. I train a lot, but I'm not on social. Thanks for doing this. Of course, man. I love that. And I mean, it's just what we've done here is collected a group of people that, on Saturdays and on Thursdays or whenever I do them in the evening, all of you tend to be, or I think that you are, focused on goals in life and workout or are heading in that direction. And this content is helping you do that. So, we need places to get together where we can talk about health and physiology for an hour. It's just great. Because I'm influencing you to think about all the things that I talk about and do regarding my health and my sexual performance and my, performance in general. You guys look at me and this is what I do. I've been doing it for years. It's all I do. I don't really have energy lapses throughout the day. I feel great. I'm 40. I feel great, and I think people want that, too. So I'm glad you're into it, man. That's why we're doing them. That's why we're here, brother. I have energy, so I want to do them. Any way to get the positive effects of nicotine without taking nicotine? Not really. I mean, you can dose low dose CDP choline, and you would get some of the choline receptor or agonist effects. I feel like my beard is absolutely touching my nose hairs. That's what happens here. It does happen. I don't know. Maybe I've never trimmed them. Got to get in there with one of those trimmers because my beard hairs are kind of creeping up, boys. I've got to do something about this. Can you really generalize stacks for precise purposes? Yes, you can. If you dose them low enough and if they're paired with other compounds that synergize with them. Yes, there is such a thing as generally applicable dose suggestions and stacks for people that are using nootropics. Absolutely. And I've put them in all of my courses. Yep. I mean, because there's distinctions you learn over time. More people than not won't respond or will have side effects from high doses of choline sources when taken consistently. And also, though, more people than not will do great on low doses of choline sources, right? So all of that effectively methodology has been implemented in most of my suggestions in the guides and the books and the courses at livecortex.com. Vigilia, appreciate the channel. Appreciate you. Thanks for the super chat. Brother. Thank you, brother. So everyone reacts differently to anastrozole. Yes. But is there a general 1%? 1 milligram a week reduces your E2 level. You mentioned it all depends on your test dose. It depends on your test dose. And it depends on whether or not you have HCG, which keeps your testicles, aromatizing more, having aromatase expression there. HCG will do that. Whereas so it's a big difference between my need for estrogen control, whether it's an AI or natural compounds, on 200 milligrams with no HCG versus 200 milligrams with HCG, or 140 with no HCG, 140 with HCG. I on 210, which is where I started TRT, everyday sub-Q injections, which wasn't the best for sexual function, by the way. It was great for animalism, which these long esters, microdosing tends to be really great for animalism. You got to build muscle to fucking do it, dude. Wasn't great for sexual function, but I needed no AI. I needed no AI. I think it just the saturation point of estradiol was too much at the receptors, which wasn't great for sexual function, as well as I need peaks and troughs. But my E2 was at 32, between 32 and 35 at 210. No HCG. However, 168 milligrams a week test, everyday injection sub-Q with 250 IU HCG a day. E2 is 55, pushing 60, if I wasn't managing it, which prompted me to manage it. So it really all depends. A milligram of anastrozole is a fucking lot for 70% plus of people. I'll say that confidently. It's a lot. If you're doing a bolus 200 milligrams at once, 0.25 would probably be useful once a week, and that's it. If you are 40 pounds overweight and you drink a lot of alcohol and you don't do other things to prevent aromatization, then you might need 0.5, 0.75, or 1 milligram. That's really what I've been seeing. MR, how common is feeling faint on low dose tadalafil? I don't think it's uncommon. It's just temporarily lowering your blood pressure. Good cognitive for 2 or 3 days, then feeling faint. Yeah, it's just reducing blood pressure. I'd increase your sodium. I'd just increase your salt intake a little bit and see how you fare there. And I mean, there's other things that you can do that will increase blood pressure to an extent. Like, as an example, the desiccated thyroid supplement that I take increases my blood pressure very, very slightly, but it's actually great because my blood pressure usually runs 118 over 80 or 118 over 70 or something. I forget what it is, but it is lower than normal all the time. So, getting it, even normal, it's like, yeah, when I run 5 milligrams of Cialis a day, which I cycle on and off of, I don't really get negatives. But if I've run 15, I've run 20 of tadalafil before, and I certainly felt a little faint. Not to the point where it was troublesome, but I noticed it, and that bothered me. Know what I mean? So there's that. Our content is phenomenal. And this is simple gift. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Big H, Triple H. It's actually Triple H, the wrestler. Imagine that. It's fucking Triple H. Triple H is over there. Just like, bro, watching the stream. Imagine that, Triple H at home, like watching the stream. Appreciate that, man. Awesome show. Yeah, bro. Fucking thanks, bro. Appreciate that, man. All right. Mohammed, you recommend Parnate. I recommend Parnate for ashwagandha-induced anhedonia. Don't know what Parnate does. If you could elucidate the mechanism of action, possibly. But ashwagandha-induced anhedonia, it's hard to say exactly what's happening there. I would wager it's modifying sex hormones, because you can look estradiol alone. You modify that, you take it too high, you take it too low, you're gonna have anhedonia. Take like we were just talking about, take a milligram of Arimidex one day, just to see. It's not gonna kill you. You probably feel like shit for 3 weeks or 2, and watch you be anhedonic. You'll be anhedonic. I mean, for sure. In my experimentation in managing estradiol and just trying to dial in different esters of TRT, I've taken the estradiol too low. I was absolutely anhedonic. Too high, close to anhedonic. Just less pleasure for things, but not as bad as low. Too low is too low. Agaricus bisporus extract was a strong aromatase inhibitor. Do research first. I'd have to look into it, and exactly what it's doing. Does it actually have aromatase activity? The white button mushroom suppressed aromatase activity dose dependently. He's right, boys. He's right. Anti-aromatase activity of phytochemicals in white button, Agaricus borevis. Now, that's interesting. Okay, so we just found out from a user, where's that thing, that this compound here has anti-aromatase properties. Wonder how it does it. I wonder how it does it. Yeah, decreased tumor cell proliferation probably via being an aromatase inhibitor. Interesting. They're being studied for potential breast cancer chemopreventative agents. Absolutely. Because they suppress activity, aromatase activity and estrogen biosynthesis. Might be interesting for folks to look into. I don't know if you can get that commercially available, but that is a potentially very useful comment. Thank you for that. No, don't know about the benefits of nutmeg. I'm sure there are some. Yeah, back to the tadalafil thing. Yeah, just eat sodium. Make sure you're getting enough sodium, and I think you'll be fine regarding that. And it may just go away. Like, your body adapts to things. It may take 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or longer, but, your body should adapt to the effects that are, probably in this case just lowering blood pressure a little bit. I'm sensitive to those kind of things, so I understand. I understand. Even on high dose TRT, my blood pressure doesn't move a bit, which kind of a blessing, because I know a lot of people that would inject 40 milligrams prop every other day, at 500 IU HCG, and their blood pressure would go crazy. But then again, I'm 170 pounds of all lean mass, so I don't really have a lot of fat and whatever. I'm healthy, and that's just that. All right, boys, I'm going to end the stream. I appreciate your guys' questions. They were epic. We'll do another live stream either Wednesday or Thursday, so look forward to that in the evening, 6 p.m., 5 p.m., 7 p.m., somewhere around there. You'll get the notification. Make sure you're subbed to the channel and you have noties on so that YouTube will literally on your phone say, hey, Cortex Labs is live, and allow you to click right through. More content coming this week. We're going to be doing more deep dives into, first, the study on HCG, which showed us that 500 IU injected at once versus 100 IU was substantially better for raising serum HCG levels, which definitely has a greater effect on the intracellular hormone environment. I'm going to break that study down, and I'm going to talk about practical ways to implement what is more of a bolus HCG injection at once versus microdosing. What that's done for me, I'll give you a quick preview. It makes sex even better. It was fine before, good, but it makes sex much better. And dare I say that I'm ready to climax a little too quickly, but that could be a godsend for some people who take forever. Anyway, that along with the study and my suggestions is coming this week. A separate video on testosterone propionate is also coming this week, whether doing every day or every other day dosing and suppression or not suppression on the HPG axis. So those are going to be the topics. We'll probably throw in a nootropics video for those of you people that liked the channel and came on and subscribed because of nootropics. I know that you guys want nootropics content, so I will always be bringing nootropics content. There's just a lot of other things in my wheelhouse and a lot of other demands from people regarding topics. So I've got to cover everything. Otherwise, appreciate you guys being with me. Thanks for the questions. Hope you're having a great weekend. What is today? Saturday. Hope you have a great rest of your week. Spring is here. It's close, baby. So let's just, we can stand it another couple weeks, 3-4 weeks max. Next week here, it's going to be 60 all week. So I don't know how we made it, but we made it through the winter, boys. And now it's nothing but sunshine moving forward, hopefully, for all of us, unless you live in Antarctica or Alaska, in which